Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1482B, and today's date is January 26, 2018, and the title of the episode is Doomsday Clock Moves Again. Is everything lining up for an event? Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are getting very, very desperate. Why do I say this? Well, it looks like they are starting their propaganda run. The New York Times, the other corporate media outlets, they're all using the same exact story, and they're going to be putting out a lot more propaganda. And how do you know it's propaganda? When you read these articles and you really look into it, you need to look for the proof. You need to look to what they're citing. And most of the times they say, well, this person said this, they're anonymous, that person said this, and we're saying that this is what's happening. That's not proof. That's he said, she said type of investigative work. They don't have any documentation. They don't have a recording. They don't have anything like that, which is absolutely meaningless. And this is what they've been using for a very long time. They use propaganda, but they never have any type of proof to back anything up. And the latest article that's out there is that in June of last year, Trump demanded Special Counsel Robert Mueller to be fired, but he changed course after the White House counsel threatened to quit if he ordered the firing of Mueller, and that comes out of the New York Times. And this is what they've said. The West Wing confrontation marks the first time Mr. Trump, it's funny how they don't say President Trump, is known to have tried to fire the special counsel. Mr. Mueller learned about the episode in recent months as his investigators interviewed current and former senior White House officials in his inquiry into whether the president obstructed justice. Amid the first wave of news media reports that Mr. Mueller was examining a possible obstruction case, the president began to argue that Mr. Mueller had 3 conflicts of interest that disqualified him from overseeing the investigation. 2 of the people said, listen, 2 of the people said, could be 9 of the people said, show us the recording, show us the proof, show us a written document, show us something. Now, we need to also understand that Trump already came out, and he said this multiple times, that he has no problem meeting with Mueller, talking with him, even under oath, makes no difference. And we know why Mueller wants this, because he wants to catch the president in a lie. But if we go back in time, there was a congresswoman who claimed that Trump was going to fire Robert Mueller on December 22nd. And we know that December 22nd has come and gone, and this didn't happen. What is the deep state doing? Well, they're throwing out anything they possibly can to distract everyone away from the FISA memo. And they're going to continually push more and more of these ridiculous stories. Now, Trump came out less than 12 hours later and said that the New York Times report is completely fake. He denies all of it. And once again, he's calling them out. And all he has to do is, where's the proof? Where did I say this? Where is the recording? Where is the document? Where is the things that I started to put together to fire him? Where is any of that information? And of course, they're going to come up with nothing. All this he said, she said, all these different things, they're meaningless. Think about it. What does it really mean if they come out and they say that, oh, he was thinking about firing him? Who cares? He's still there. He didn't do it. It makes no difference, but they're using it to create emotion. That's what the intelligence agencies do. That's what the corporate media does. That's what the cabal does. They put out stories that create emotion, get everyone emotionally charged. And that's all they have. And then when you cut through the emotional part and you say, okay, let's put that aside, and you look at the proof, you look at the facts, that's where it always falls apart. Now, on the other side, what does Trump have? What does these individuals in government have that are going after the cabal? What do they have? Well, they have written documents signed by these individuals. They have proof because they have texts. They have a FISA memo. They have the emails from Clinton. They have the information from the Uranium One deal. Think about what they have compared with what the corporate media is putting out there. Propaganda with nothing to back it up. All the documentation, all the proof, all the text messages, all the information they could ever want to show that these people were involved in all of this. And we see already that the FBI lied to congressional investigators. Basically, the FBI lied to the people under oath. Why did they lie? How did they lie? They said that they could not find the text messages between Strzok and Page. It's impossible. We don't know where they are. We can't retrieve them. But that's not true. A former FBI special agent who worked extensively on counterterrorism stated the following. He was dumbfounded by the FBI's excuse that the text messages were irretrievable. Why? Because even though the servers lost the text messages of Strzok and Page, all they have to do is go to the actual device. Even if they deleted all the pages, guess what? They still can be recovered. He says that's how we catch the bad guys. We forensically search their phones. Nothing disappears off the device. The only way to make it disappear off the device is if you take a hammer to it and you smash it into tiny little pieces, or you microwave it. Maybe even light it on fire. So the question is, the FBI, they know this. So why did they lie? Why did they mislead Congress? Why did they mislead the American people? I mean, Mueller is out there, and he's saying that Manafort, and he's trying to catch Trump in a lie, telling that these people lied. Well, didn't they lie? Shouldn't they be held accountable? It's amazing. Now, out of these text messages, we've come to learn that between Strzok and Page, they have revealed that the agency's top brass was considering appointing former U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald as special counsel in the Hillary Clinton email investigation. They were going to actually investigate all of this. The idea was pitched in March of 2016, and this was in the text messages, and they basically backed out of it. Because why? They were afraid of the backlash from Clinton. They were afraid that if she became president, guess what? They would be in trouble. This is why they backed off. They recommended to the Department of Justice that we shouldn't investigate. And we can see right now that all of this is tied into everything. Email, the pages, the Russian collusion, the Uranium One deal, the FISA memo, everything is all interconnected, and it's the same exact players. And the whole thing's starting to fall apart. Even though the corporate media is out there saying the walls are closing in on Trump. No, really what they're saying, and remember, it's always the opposite of what they say. The walls are closing in on them. Remember, Trump, they have everything. They have the text messages. They have all emails. They have everything the NSA has. They have all of it in documentation. They have the FISA memo with everyone signing it. They have all of this information. No matter how hard they tried to hide it, guess what? You can't, because he has access to pretty much everything. And everything is being presented to him. Now we can see that the cabal over time, and we went through this, many, many times about free speech and how they were trying to politically correct us and basically make us into morons where we couldn't speak the way we really feel and make sure that we didn't speak freely, and that's why they came up with hate speech. This is why they said we have to control this. This was all about getting rid of our rights. That was the main focus of all this, because the only way they can control the population is to make sure the population doesn't have rights. Now, I know we were born with them. I know that they can't remove them or take them away, but for the general public, they can try to convince you. They can even put it on the books where rights are privileges and the government can take them away. They can do all of that. I know it means nothing, but a lot of people would be convinced of this. But once again, this was their mission. And colleges, they were on board with this. I mean, look at Berkeley, look at many of these colleges, and we see the Department of Justice right now. They're saying that they're not going to stand idly by as these colleges crush free speech. And they're going to be looking into what they've been doing because, again, They're having these, free speech zones. There's no such thing as these things. They're all made up to make us believe that this is the only place we can have free speech. And we need to understand that everything that the cabal have been trying to do over a period of time, get rid of the weapons, make sure that people won't speak freely, make sure they understand they have to speak in the free speech zones, like in the Bundy Ranch crisis. They had the free speech area and they had a fence around it, and they said this is where you can protest and stuff like that, which is absolutely ridiculous because there's nothing like that. It doesn't exist. And actually nobody even went into it, and it didn't work. We see out in Ukraine the storm clouds are gathering, and it looks like they're going to try to do something, because the reason I say this is because the economy in Ukraine is deteriorating very, very quickly. Remember, the United States, the cabal, had regime change. Victoria Nuland headed it up, spent about $5 billion, and they got the elected President Yanukovych out of office. They put the puppet government in office. Right now it's Poroshenko, and Crimea voted themselves away. The southeast part of Ukraine said, listen, we don't want to have anything to do with the puppet government. We want to be separate and apart. And this is how the war all started. And again, they stole all their gold. They destroyed their economy. They put them into a huge amount of debt. And the entire economy is falling apart. Right now, they're saying that inflation is around 12 to 16%. And this is, of course, coming from the central bank and things like that. But the true inflation there is most likely around 17% or even higher. And the people are suffering. They're even making deals with Russia to get coal into the country. This is how desperate they're getting. And I think what's going to happen right now is, as the economy deteriorates even further, they're going to have to distract everyone, probably with going after the southeastern people in Ukraine. And this is why the U.S., the cabal, has placed soldiers there to train them and to do things. So that's another hot spot that we need to look at, and that might be the next thing that's going to happen. Qatar is out there, and this is the home of CENTCOM headquarters. They're in talks with Russia right now to purchase the S-400 missile air defense system, which is very interesting because I see Egypt, I see Iran, Qatar, all these countries are purchasing the S-400. Now maybe they're looking at the U.S. weapons saying, the U.S. weapons don't work, but I think they're purchasing the Russian-made weapons because they understand that they can really protect themselves with these weapons because they really work. Secondly, they realize that the cabal might come after them, and they want to protect their country. And this is why most of these countries like Syria, Iran, India, and Qatar now, Saudi Arabia, they're all purchasing the S-400 air defense system to protect their country from who? The cabal? Because we can see that the cabal is going to be very, very angry with these countries because they're going against everything they worked for. And we can see that most likely this is why they're doing it. We see the Syrian Kurds, well, they're going to share the fate as all the other cabal allies. It looks like the Syrian government will be taking over the Kurd region. The cabal will be pushed out of there. The Kurds have already made the call. This was the plan from the beginning. And we can see right now that this whole entire operation was to get rid of the cabal. Because how do you get rid of the cabal that is set up in the Kurd region with a huge amount of weapons? Trump already tried to stop the funding to all the Kurd soldiers. There was no more funding going there. There was no more funding going to the moderate rebels. The Islamic State was beaten. The Al-Qaeda pretty much gone. And the cabal has set up shop inside of the Kurdistan region. How to get rid of them? Well, break them down. Make the Kurds ask for Assad's help. Have the Syrian army come into the Kurd region and have the Kurds admit they're part of Syria. I mean, game over. That's what we're looking at unless they do something and push something. Now, Russia is saying that the equipment that the terrorists have been using They are using radio electronic equipment made in Europe. And we know that they get the Toyota trucks. We know now that they're getting the radio electronic equipment. We know that they have sarin gas. We know they have chlorine gas. Basically, the U.S. and the coalition forces have been supplying the terrorists with everything to push their agenda. And all of it is coming out now. Now, I wanted to turn towards the Doomsday Clock right now because it moved 30 seconds closer to midnight, the closest to the symbolic point of annihilation that the clock has been since 1953 at the height of the Cold War. Now, what's very interesting about this is that we had the Hawaiian alert system go off saying that there was an incoming missile. We also have the Super Bowl coming up, and I know every year everyone makes different predictions about the Super Bowl because we've seen other events happen at, these big gatherings, concerts and things like that, and certain things happen. And we can see that it looks like everything is lining up for a false flag. Now, not saying it's going to happen, but there are strange things happening with this Super Bowl. The U.S. Bank Stadium fired its security provider and replaced it with G4S. This is the Black Ops CIA. G4S is the company that employed Omar Mateen. Remember him, Omar Mateen? He's the patsy blamed for the Orlando nightclub shooting. Another warning sign, the company that engineered U.S. Bank Stadium is into disaster relief. SMG, which runs venue management for U.S. Bank Stadium, also manages events at Manchester Arena, the site of the Ariana Grande concert bombing on May 22nd. And you start to look at this and you start to say, well, wait a minute. What is going on here? I mean, having a switch in security to a security firm that was handling the Orlando nightclub shooting, having the same management company that managed the Manchester Arena. I mean, they were in on it before. What's not to say that they're not in it right now? We also understand that the cabal, the deep state, they're very desperate at this point. They need a huge distraction. They need something to distract from what is coming, to have the news report on all of this while the FISA memo and all of this is released, or maybe they will hold off because this event will be so big that they won't release it as of yet. And of course, what kind of an event will this be? We don't know. Will it happen? We don't know either. But these are strange occurrences and things that we need to look at because it does line up with what happened in other places. And we've seen this pattern before. This is not something new. This is something very interesting. Now, the question is, if we dig a little bit deeper, have they been training for a specific event? Are they preparing for something like a bomb, a nuclear detonation, a shooting, something like that? We don't know. And I'm sure information will come out that they are, practicing some type of drill for a certain event. And normally these drills are very, very specific. It's not like, let's try a gun drill, a bomb drill, a nuclear explosion drill, missiles hitting the stadium. Usually they are focused in on one specific type of an event. When we saw like all the other places with shootings and stuff, they practice with a shooter. If it's someone wearing a bomb, they practiced with a bomb. The same thing here. Now, they might have been doing this months ahead of time, which I believe they most likely are, but we can see with the security, with the management company, with the company that engineered the U.S. Bank Stadium that's in disaster relief, we see that all of this, makes our antennas go up, and we have to say, why is all of this happening at the same time, and why are all these different companies linked with other false flag events? And this is what we're watching. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.